Okay, guys. All right, so I wanted to give you a quick overview again of how to graph a line when you have the equation in slope-intercept form. So real quick, just to remind us, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And we talked about how slope is your m, b is your y-intercept, and then again x is y. X and y are your input and output. So when you are told to graph this, there are three main steps. We went over this in class, but to give you an overview again. Step one, the first thing you're going to do is plot your y-intercept. So according to slope-intercept form, the y-intercept is in the place of b. So if we go up here, the thing that is in the place of the b is the 1, but also you have this negative here. So the y-intercept is actually going to be -1. So we're going to come to our y-axis, and we're going to go and put a point on -1 on our y-axis. So that's your first step. That's done. Second step, starting at the y-intercept, so where we just put a point, use the slope to find, should just be one find, the next point. So starting at this point, use our slope to get to the next point. So here's our slope, it's in the place of m. Our slope is 2, or 2 over 1. So starting at our point, we're going to go up 2, because it's positive 2. And then we're going to go over 1 space, and there's our point. We could keep going, go up 2, over 1, there's our point. Again, we could go up 2, over 1, there's another point. So here is our line, which I just butchered a little bit, but there's our line. So the equation of this line is y equals 2x minus 1. So again, plot the y-intercept, put it on the y-axis in our graph. Starting with our y-intercept, use our slope to go up 2 over 1, because that's what it says. Put our next point. Then draw your line. So step 3 was to draw your line. So let's try another one or two before we look at a different type of example. So right here, number 2 says graph y equals -3x plus 4. So before I even do anything else, I'm just going to acknowledge that this right here, this -2 is in the place of m. So that's my slope. And then this positive 4 is my y-intercept. So when I draw my graph, I need at least up to positive 4 on the y-intercept, or the y-axis. And then my slope tells me I'm going to go down 3, so I need to go down on my graph from there. So when I draw a graph, I want at least 4 points above my x-axis. And now I can draw my points. So the y-intercept is positive 4, and the slope tells me to go down 1, 2, 3, and over to the right 1. Down 1, 2, 3, over 1. Down 1, 2, 3, over 1. And there's my line. Okay, now I'm not going to talk about this one. I'm just going to quickly draw this other one, just so if you want to try it, you can pause it and then check your answer. This one is 4x minus 8. Here's my slope, my intercept. My y-intercept is -8. I go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Up 4 over 1. All right. So that's how you graph a line when it's in slope-intercept form. But I want to go over a few other things just so you're aware of it. Some special cases. So the first one is, what if there's no y-intercept listed? So if we have y equals mx plus b, notice there's our y. 3 would be our slope in the place of m. We have our x, but we have no plus b here. Okay? That means there's no y-intercept. So what it really means is it's a y-intercept of 0. So we could write plus 0 there. So anytime that you see no y-intercept listed, it's actually a y-intercept of 0. So when we graph it, we start again with graphing our y-intercept. So if our y-intercept is 0, we put that right on the origin, right at 0 on the y-axis. Then we use our slope. Down 3 over 1. Down 3 over 1. Down 3 over 1. So the difference about this one is there's no y-intercept listed, therefore the y-intercept is actually 0, right at the origin. This one over here, same thing. There's no y-intercept listed, so it's technically just plus 0 here, and then 4 is our slope. So we start by graphing our y-intercept at 0, and then our slope says go up 4 over 1, up 4 over 1, up 4 over 1, and now we have our line. All right, so that's what it looks like if there's no y-intercept listed. It's just a y-intercept of 0. Now there's another special case, 2 more actually, that I just want to point out to you. Now this time, what if there's no slope? Or in other words, a slope of 0. This is what it would look like. So essentially what we have here is we have y equals, but then there's no mx, and the b is actually the 4. So what we're missing here is, if the slope is 0 in this case, y equals 0 times x plus this 4. Well, 0 times anything is 0, so it would just be y equals 4. And that's why it's the way it is. So we saw this in class already, but I want to make sure you understand how to graph it. So graphing this one, starting with our y-intercept. Well, our y-intercept is actually the 4. So we're going to put it right here. But then remember, anything with a slope of 0 is a horizontal line. So you're going to draw a horizontal line right through that point. And that's it. There's no special slope to this one. You're not going up or down at all. It's just a horizontal line because it's a slope of 0. So over on this one, this time, same setup. This -8 is actually the y-intercept. So you're going to plug in your y-intercept, put it on your graph. But again, there's a slope of 0. There's no slope to it. So this one is actually going to be a horizontal line going through the -8. Okay, so this is what it looks like if there's no slope. In other words, there's a slope of 0. One other example, and then we're done. Special cases, slope of 1 or -1. So what you'll notice here is you have an x in both of these examples, but there's no number in front of them. That's because, as we already know, there's an implied 1 in front of each of these. This one's positive, this one's negative. Okay, so we know that. We don't have to write the 1, but you may if you'd like. So when you graph this, the y-intercept of this first one is positive 4. And then the slope says down 1, -1, but then over 1. Down 1, over 1. Down 1, over 1. Down 1, and you could just keep going if you wanted to. And there's our line. Okay, and you'll notice it's just a very simple slant to it, about a 45-degree angle. This other one, y-intercept of -8, this time it's positive, so we go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And there is our line. Okay, so that's what it looks like if you have a slope of 1 or -1. So that's it. Quick reminder, as we saw at the beginning, step 1, plot your y-intercept. Step 2, starting with that y-intercept, use the slope to find the next point, going up or down and then over, and then draw a line through your points. All right.